Today, the Government had the opportunity to give people certainty as they face into a winter of rising costs. Certainty about energy costs, certainty on rents, certainty that those on fixed incomes would be shielded from the price rises that they have seen. They had an opportunity to plan for the future and deliver on housing, and on health, and on real climate action, but they haven't done that today, Cancórlia. Time and time again, we've seen ministers come into this Dáil and deliver budgets that promise much, but ultimately deliver little. And ministers opposite have come today and thrown out large numbers, announced tweaks here and there on the edges of the crises our people face. And for many workers and for many families on middle and low incomes, they will see little change in this budget. What workers and families needed was certainty to get through this winter. Low and middle income earners needed additional support. The younger generation, locked out of opportunity, needed assurances that the housing crisis was going to be tackled. Instead, there are too many instances of this Government making the wrong choices or deciding on more of the same. Money and tax reliefs that will be swallowed up by inflation and runaway rents before they can make a difference in people's pockets. By refusing to reduce electricity prices and cap them at pre-crisis levels, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens have left households exposed to further price hikes. Renters have been promised a tax credit that is less than the rent increases that they've seen every year, with the amount to be pocketed by their landlords because you have refused to ban further rent increases. So many workers on middle and low incomes have been pushed to the bottom of the pile with an income tax package that leaves them short-changed. Households needed certainty and support this winter, and ambition to build for the future in delivering on housing and on health. Those workers in the squeezed middle, those earning €35,000 or less, who should have been a priority, have been pushed to the side. For many, the hopes that they had for this budget have been disappointed today, and everything is going in the wrong direction. Inflation going up, house prices going up, rents going up, interest rates going up. Workers and families face the worst cost of living crisis in a generation and the biggest fall in living standards since the financial crash. It is clear that the Government doesn't understand the scale of the cost of living crisis that households face this winter, with a package announced today that fails to provide the certainty and adequate help to help workers and families. A Sinn Fein Government would have acted differently. We would have stopped the excess profits that energy companies are making as a result of Government inaction, and we would have given households certainty and support by cutting electricity prices back to their pre-crisis levels and keeping them there right throughout the winter months. At times of inflation, a pay increase that fails to rise with the rate of inflation is a real terms pay cut. And that is precisely what the Government has handed out to our lowest paid workers on the minimum wage. Those workers who kept our economy and society function during the pandemic. I'm talking about the cleaners, the workers on the shop floor and the many, many others who are currently on the minimum wage. Instead of getting a pay rise, the Government have handed them what is really, in effect, given inflation, a pay cut. Under the Government's 80-cent increase to the minimum wage, these workers will be worse off next year than they were last year. A minimum wage increase of more than €1 would have been needed just to protect the spending power of these workers, protect them from inflation and the impact of price rises. And that's why Sinn Féin would have increased the minimum wage by €1.40, boosting the take-home pay of workers up to €2,150. Working people who have spent nights wondering how they will make ends meet were hoping for a budget that paid attention to them, supported them and treated them fairly. And the income tax package announced today didn't do that and left many of them out of the cold. And unfortunately, when we pare back all of the numbers and all of the big announcements that have been announced today, for many of these crises will persist this winter and next. Indeed, for many it will worsen. A Sinn Féin Government would have had different priorities and make better choices, because the true test of this budget is whether the most vulnerable households will be better off or worse this winter compared to next year, whether they would have planned for the future and delivered improvements in health service and tackled the housing crisis. But unfortunately, Minister, for far too many, I believe this budget has failed that test.